Do we have concentricity? Uh-oh. It appears we do not. Yeah, it's close though, but I don't know if we're close enough for that. Well, she's tight, but I can get it in by hand and out again, by hand at least. She's a little tight. Alright folks, so I think that you just saw puts that to bed. Because I was thinking about it going, well, I know that's a good reference there. Why can't I just kind of twist and bend that with the press back into shape? Because obviously it got pulled back from the welding. And so that's what I did. A couple of tries, one of which you saw, and she slips right through. And we know it's good because remember, we're using that as the reference, the unmolested side. As long as this goes in easily to that, you know it's right. So, again, that's put to bed. This one I want to show you is my idea for the shock attachment points in the back. So what I did was I took some 2-inch solid, I think it's 6163 general purpose aluminum, and I cut off a section and faced it on both sides in the lathe to a 1/2 inch thick. Then what I did was I put it in the mill and just milled a flat on it, and I think the overall on this is something like a $1.25. Figured out approximately where I'm going to want the hole, but what I ended up doing was actually, this is an M10 fastener. I made an M10 transfer punch, essentially. Put it through here and kind of held this where I thought it would be, and then just tapped it, and then drilled and tapped that hole for M10 125, and this is, I don't think this will be the permanent fastener, but it's just for now. So this is my idea. As far as the placement goes this way, I have no idea. I'm guessing, but I'm using an educated guess to figure out where this should be. When I originally measured this, I took my straight edge, which is right here, which in this case is a level, and I laid it across like this, because I have it in my drawings. I went from this spot here, underneath there, down to the center line of the axle. Keep in mind that the original swing arm is much shorter than this one, and I looked at that dimension on here, and then looked at how I could, if I duplicated that, I would have to have these shocks like way out. That wouldn't be right. And also, customer has been talking about putting either a slightly larger rim and certainly a larger tire, both width and profile on this. So I'm kind of doing some calculations in my head. So, you know, I talked it out to myself, essentially, and I guess you'd call talking myself into something, but I think my logic is sound, and I ended up going with about 1.5 inches or 1 inch more than what I found in the stock setup, which was about 17.5 inches from that edge down to there. But remember, this is way further down. It's close to about 1 inch lower. It's kind of difficult for me to extrapolate that line all the way out to there, so I'm kind of, like I said, I'm guessing on this. So what I figure is, if we go out a little bit further, we are extending the contact point of this shock further away from the pivot. And so if it was closer to the pivot, there'd be more leverage on it. In other words, it would be easier to compress. So if we had it up here and you lift it up, it would be a lot more a lot more leverage on it so you can compress it easier. The further we go away from the pivot, the more difficult it is for that to push up against that. If we go to about right there, and I forgot what I measured off the back edge because that's what I'm going to use as a reference for the other one too. It doesn't really matter, I guess. If I go right there, it should be a happy medium where it's going to have a little bit more ability to resist compression, and we're going to need that anyway because it's got a larger wheel, and we have a little bit of extra space as far as the swing arm laying down a little lower than the other one. Like maybe it might not even be an inch, I don't know. But I did, this is all eyeing in, and I'm just kind of doing this logically, and I think that's going to work. So let's get back to the fixation point as to where this thing's going to be fixated. So I'm definitely going to have them welded here, but I'm not going to trust just that, because what's going to happen is you're going to have this, and it's going to work hard in that weld, and it's going to snap right off. So we're going to need some outside or outboard support, and that's where this comes in. Let me get you down here, and I'll show you what I mean. I hope I can get back up. So if we slide, just pretend it slid over the opening there. We're going to put something like this up. This little chamfer here, this little angle is to clear the bottom of the shock there. We're going to put this up out there and have a 10 millimeter clearance hole, whatever that is, 11 millimeter, 10.5, I don't know. And then put this together where it'll be like that, and then the welder can weld this in, and we'll just use the appropriate length bolt for that. This will be on both sides, of course. This is going to give it its main strength, and this will resist it from twisting a lot, at least. So, because the old one is steel, but it does have it on both sides. It's captured on both sides, and you put a bolt through. Those eyes on the swing arm. So, basically, this is the concept. And so the issue I have is I don't have capability of welding aluminium. So how do I lock these into place and then transport this up to the welder and have them weld it without it moving? I'm going to take an end mill, a 2-fluted end mill. This is not the one I'd use most likely. It's a little too big, just 11/32. I need to order a few metrique 2-fluted end mills. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plunge this down in the mill where it'll be perpendicular or at a 90 degree to the flat with the appropriate spacing between the outside edge and the center of the hole, or the edge of the hole actually. And then go down in there with just enough to break a clean flat. Not even a counterbore, but just a flat. And then we'll go ahead and drill that for a clearance hole for an M4 stainless steel long screw, cap head screw, bolt, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to have 2 of these on those flats. They certainly will be visible. They will stay there. And that will lock these into place. And then once it's welded, assuming it doesn't distort the aluminum around these threads, I'm going to back them out and then put Loctite on and put them back in. But I may not even need to do that. Maybe I'll Loctite them off the bat, but I don't want to take any chance of contaminating that weld with any off-gassing from any type of a thread locker, so probably not. And the same thing with this guy. I'll just have to shorten up. I have plenty of long ones. Just have to shorten up a couple of these, 2 of them in fact, and do the same thing on this outside edge, or this outside face rather. Whoops, getting in a shot. So again, we'll do the same thing on this outside face. The hole for this bolt, this pivot at the end of the shock, is what's going to give me my reference and alignment for where these things go. I'll just have to eye it in this way or measure it up from the bottom. And then from the inside edge, because this one's going to be flush with the outside edge, this will actually give us our reference this way for the shock. And then I'll have to move this inboard. And I'm probably going to mill a little bit off of the face of this as well, lengthwise like this. Okay, like for example, mill some off this way for extra clearance, for distortion from welding. And what I'd really like to do is I'd like to have enough clearance on it to put at least 1, if not 2 really thin stainless washers in there. Not absolutely necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway, just to make sure we have some clearance. So that is the idea here. That is where I'm going with this. I think this is going to work fine. I know this will. This is definitely going to be over-engineered for what it's designed to do as far as the weight goes. But I'd rather over-engineer it than under-engineer it. It's going to be painted up anyway. Nobody's going to notice it anyway. But there's no way I'm going to leave it like that, even though it's a big beefy piece. That will flex back and forth, especially when it's under compression. It'll flex down, or at least forward, I should say. Let's see, yeah, I would want to go that way. And, you know, the thing is, it'll snap. Eventually that will snap from work hardening the aluminum. So, yeah, we're going to do it with outside support. And this is quad as well. That's half this quad. Anyway, that's the plan, and I think I'm going to stick to it. The last part I'll show you is he never provided me any adjuster slide gizmos, or like plates that go inside here, and they have a bolt that the head of which hits up in here, and so you just reach in with a wrench like you typically would to push them out or bring them back in. Again, I never got these. I can't even find them on Fleabay. I don't even know what they look like. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up having to machine something that captures a spacer on the outside of that between this face and the end of the axle bolt, and with that piece slipped over. So if this is the piece, this here, we're going to be putting it inside there, but we can't go too far in because of the welds here, unless they accommodated it right there. I don't know. I don't see any witness marks for that. I think this was all the way up into here, and I'm not really sure how they kept it from going cattywampus. Like I said, if I could see one, I could make one exactly the same, but I'm going to come up with a way to do it. There's also some sort of a cap on the back end that we do not have as well, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that. So I'm not sure if that's part of this or not. If anybody out there knows what these are or look like or have some, it's what is it, like an 86 GS 1150E or something this came from, I believe. Please reach out to me, because I can't find them. I can't find any reference to them. I can see them in the parts fish, but not with enough detail to really accurately and intelligently make these things. But net sum is I'm going to have to make something for the adjuster as well. And I'm just not really sure what I'm going to do back here. We might just make a plate and put a couple of screws in. And okay, that's it. But I want to show you. That's put to bed. Night, night.